Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope you're all keeping well this winterval.
Hello everybody, Matt Guy here. Ding dong merrily on my Christmas balls. We are well underway into Christmas.
Just say something nice about it. Jingle All the Way. It's a good film and it's family friendly. No smut here. Hello everyone.
There's always plenty of smut here.
Well, yeah, are you one of these, Stu, that believe that sex has no place at Christmas? Very much like, when you've been in, in a relationship as long as perhaps some of us have, then, sex doesn't have a place at any point in the year. But irrespective of that, some people genuinely think that like there is no time for smuttiness at Christmas. I remember there's like on one of the episodes of Peep Show, Jez is like, "It's Christmas, Mark." He makes a big deal of the fact that he doesn't have sex at Christmas, and he thinks it's a Christmas miracle.
Well, you don't want to be the ones with the baby two backs on the in front of the baby Jesus. You mean some things like that? It's all. I never really thought about it, to be honest. But then again, I have slept under a Christmas tree before. I used to do that every year, just because we had a real tree. It's like it smells all nice and everything. And obviously, when I've been out on the session, I used to sleep on my camp bed. But when the tree was there, I used to get a pillow and just sleep underneath it, just so they get the essence of the Christmas tree.
There was none of that in my house because there was always an ornamental display of the baby Jesus and and everything else under the tree. So there was no room for young me to relax under the tree. Sadly,
yeah. There's been no fornication under the pine leaves at all. So yeah, it's a weird. We can put a poll out about this because I've never considered this in my entire life.
What, having sex under a Christmas tree?
No, how is it? It's banned at Christmas time because it's special. Why would it be?
Because it's a time of innocence. I'm guessing people think, a time of festivities, not frolicking.
A time for believing. He's going all Cliff Richard now.
Oh God, yeah, exactly.
And he definitely hasn't had sex at Christmas or ever. Well, with certain members of the public anyway.
Yeah, I feel like there's a joke to be made there, but then we might have to cancel the podcast. Right, anyway, moving on. We'll have a quick look at what's been released recently. In the cinemas, there's not really been a massive amount of like Christmas-related films which have been released. Apart from the one this week, which is Violent Night, starring Hopper from Stranger Things, David Harbour. This is probably the only real Christmassy film being released in the cinema for 2022. A group of mercenaries attack the estate of a wealthy family. Santa Claus must step in to save the day and Christmas. The trailers make it look very much like the Cage and Kidman film that we watched this year, Trespass. I'm hoping it's better than that, but also as fun as that one. Stu, Violent Night, excited much?
Absolutely. I know when we learned about it halfway through the year, and I thought, this is nailed on. I mean, at that time, we didn't know, did we, if it was going to be cinema or VOD. So either way, it was always going to be watched. And I said to you in there that this could be our Christmas date night for the year after the success of Last Christmas a couple of years ago. But yeah, all in on this one. I can't wait. I mean, it's the right kind of silliness that you need at Christmas. That not Christmas films that take themselves way too seriously, because why would you want to do that? You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. This looks ridiculous, and that's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Matt, do you like David Harbour? I mean, he was great in Stranger Things.
Yeah, he was. And thank God he's cast in this, because this has all the makings of a Channel 5, no budget, no excitement film. But the fact that he's in it is enough to draw me in at least for it. But I'm not got particularly high hopes for it, if I'm brutally honest. That being said, I would like to be pleasantly surprised, but I mean, I know you're gonna ask us the question anyway in a minute, but horror and Christmas is just a weird combo that I'm not entirely sure works, or at least not for me. So I'm on the fence about this one until, much like our conversation about Wednesday, I want to hear somebody else's review first before I delve in.
Okay, I get you. So this is from the director who also did Dead Snow 2, Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, the first Dead Snow. Like he's got previous when it comes to schlocky, silly, fun horror movies. Like it'll probably end up with maybe a 5.4 on IMDb, and people will either love it or hate it, and absolutely nothing in between. But as you pointed out, Matt, the fact that it's got Hop in there, like I'm all for it. Just like anytime I get a chance to see Harbour in anything, he's become one of those actors for me that I quite happy to sit through anything he stars in. So I'm very much looking forward to this one.
Even Black Widow.
Even Black Widow. I mean, Flo was in that as well, so like it was 2 for the price of 1. To be fair. Right, so Violent Night being the biggest release, it's a good time to talk about horror at Christmas time. Stu, what is it about horror at Christmas? So the kids have got the Grinch, the adults have got the child kidnapping Krampus. Why does horror work at Christmas, or doesn't it? For you, what do you think?
I think it goes back to a bit like when we talked about the silly goth Christmas series Halloween. When we were talking then about how horror and comedy shouldn't technically work together, but yeah, it does in its own kind of weird genre. This is very similar to that, I think, where you've got something that you're supposed to be full of happiness and fun and enjoyment, mashed together with something that's horrific and evil and like that. So I think it's kind of the old opposites attract kind of formula where two things put together shouldn't work, but they just do. You can't explain it. But most of these well, not all of them, the vast majority of them are kind of comedies as well.
Yeah.
There ain't many. No, there are. I mean, there is bound to be like proper horror Christmas films set at Christmas, but the good ones that I've seen are more towards the silly side. And I think that works more because of the whole festivities and the festive season of it all. But again, I'm struggling to find a reason why it does work, because it's just one of them things that you can't explain.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think the point you were getting at about the fact that they're so disparate, they're so different, and it's the case of having two things next to each other, which are, you've got the north and the south, and it's attracted to each other. Yeah. So you've got the attraction of them being complete opposites to each other. Christmas should be about safety and fun and happiness, and horror is obviously about not that. So it's I'm a fan of Hitchcock, and I think Hitchcock always did those films where it was about having exciting and scary things in places where it was supposed to be quite sanitized. So a murder at a theme park, for example, like it's sanitized scares, but a real scare in there. And I think that's what works with Christmas for me, is you've got the sanitized safety with this real element of fear. And I think that's what works, is that it takes you out of it. Mm-hmm. Matt, you don't look like you agree at all.
No, I was stifling a yawn there, not because of what you were saying. However, I'm just quite late at night and I'm quite tired. I think the issue I have with Christmas and horror is, horror has to be, for the most part, because Santa sadly isn't real. And the spoiler alert to anybody listening. we have to compare horror to your more monsters and aliens and everything else, as opposed to horrors about just home invaders, which I suppose Santa is. And so there has to be for these films to be scary, there's got to be a suspension of disbelief. Do you know what I mean? Because actually, if someone's burgling you and is going to murder you, that actually could happen in your home. So that's scary in itself. But in terms of like the monster films and stuff, there's got to be a suspension of disbelief to allow yourself to be scared. But when it comes to like Christmas, and Santa and evil little monsters, like elves, and like it's so silly. There's zero element of suspension of disbelief, and therefore it's not a horror film. It's a comedy horror film, and that's a different thing altogether. So that's why I don't think really horror and comedy really, horror and Christmas really work that well together. I'd rather, and if it's going to unintentionally be funny, I'd rather just watch a comedy instead than watch something that's a bit. It's not trying to be funny, and it is funny, and now I pity it. Do you know what I mean? Like, Gremlins very much leans into the fact that it's stupid, and it never portrays itself as a horror film. It knows that it's a comedy. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, there are certain films that I've seen, this, you only need to tell from Violent Night poster that it's not going to take itself seriously as like a horror, because it's, and I think certain films do try and take themselves seriously, but by proxy, it's even more laughable because it's just not. There's no peril. Like it doesn't. It's laughable what's happening. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll get you. So, Stu, what is the best Christmas horror? And it can be horror, it can be comedy horror, whatever you want.
I mean, he's just mentioned the obvious one there, Gremlins, because it's not horror. It's not scary for us, but I remember watching this and saying to Ethan when he was probably about 7 or 8, I went, "Oh, let's watch Gremlins." It fucked him up. It terrified him. I know we spoke about it before about the legacy of Gremlins and everyone having like a little Mogwai backpack, well, girls having Mogwai backpacks, and it kind of having a life of its own. And I'm guessing the kids of today would have no problem with it. But I was thinking about, there's Krampus that was released a few years ago. I strangely enjoyed that one.
Yeah, me too.
But the first one that I thought about is literally called A Christmas Horror Story.
I know the one.
Yeah. Amazingly, with William Shatner as a radio host. And again, that's got your suspension of disbelief with it. Here we are. In IMDb, it says interwoven stories that take place on Christmas Eve, as told by one festive radio host. So you've got a load of different things. You got families with a Christmas tree and different student documentary, Become a Living Nightmare, Christmas spirits. There's stuff in there that are actually quite dark, but it just works. And again, don't really know why. And what scores he got? Probably a 5, I'm guessing, because they all tend to. Yeah, 5.8. Exactly what you want. Perfect.
That's the ideal.
You're not going to get a 10 out of 10 for this kind of thing, are you? And I'd be amazed if there is any Christmas films at all in the top 250.
I don't think there is off the top of my head, but there must be some there or thereabouts. Matt, is there a top horror for yourself?
Well, apart from the obvious being Gremlins, which isn't horror itself, there is a film directed by Paul Feig, starring Emilia Clarke. That is my top. Well, I mean, it was horrifying, if that makes any sense to you. And that is Last Christmas, because that really did want to put me in an early grave.
What a film!
Obviously, go listen to that if you haven't already.
I was going to say it's in the archives if you want to listen to us discuss that one. That was something else. I'd got two. I'd got one which was a serious horror film and one which was a comedy horror film. The comedy horror film is Anna and the Apocalypse, which is a zombie Christmas musical film. It's really silly. It's really funny. It's really low budget, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the songs are actually quite well written, which isn't what I would have expected for something which was clearly put together with 50 quid. Like it doesn't look great, but it is fun nonetheless. And that's what you want from your comedy Christmas horror. The serious one is Black Christmas, and specifically the original 1974 one starring Margot Kidder. That's a legitimately really good horror movie about a home invasion where he starts bumping off these sorority sisters one by one.
See, this
Really
is
good.
this is the rare one where I liked the remake more than the original.
Well, there's been 2 remakes, and I know I've seen one of them, but for the life of me, I think it might be the 2006 one I saw, but I haven't seen the 2019 one.
Yeah, it was that one, the last one.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen the one and it was dog shit. So, but yeah, the first one is fantastic. Like, it's held up as like a really good horror movie, generally, not just sort of like Christmas horror. So yeah, check that one out. I think that's one for everyone to watch. Right, so that's another episode of the ChristmasCast Quick Question Minisode done and dusted. Please make sure you subscribed on whatever podcatcher you've got and get us on the socials at Cage Fighting Pod. Emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy. Take it easy. I've been on the eggnog. Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. Check in on your pals and enjoy the festivities.
Stu, what do you want to say goodbye?
What is eggnog?
It's rum and nog. I don't know. I think it's like cream and I think it's cream, rum, and something else. I don't even know if there is actually egg in it.
You can be drinking egg, can you? Surely not.
I wouldn't have thought so.
It's funny because this year gone by was the first year that I doubled down on trying a pumpkin spice latte around horror time. And I must admit, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Never had one before. And I thought it was amazing. And I'm now being told that like you're moving into eggnog coffee season. And
Yes.
like that's another thing that I'm going to go 2-footed on.
Yeah, Starbucks do an eggnog latte, and it's the best thing in the world.
Really?
But it's also about 300 calories for a small one.
Hey,
But it is fantastic. Right, the ingredients are milk, cream, sugar, whipped egg whites, egg yolks, and nutmeg.
So I'm going to get swole. It's like a protein shake.
It is, yeah. I've only ever tried it in latte, and that latte is phenomenal.
I mean,
But it's also horrendous.
that doesn't sound appealing, really. As someone who doesn't like egg anyway. But then I eat cake. So is it more liquid cake than egg?
It's custardy, and then you've got like nutmeg and cinnamon and stuff in it as well.
Sounds
Yeah,
right.
a bit like Bailey. I only drinking Baileys at Christmas, which you always do anyway. Yeah, slightly intrigued now. Might have to put a video out on the social for this.
Get to Starbucks at Cineworld next time you're in there and treat yourself.
Maybe for what with this film. Maybe we'll get one then.
There you go. We'll do that.
It all links together. Goodbye, everyone.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.